G'day and welcome to Inforunners. I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by my partner in crime, Algared. How you doing, buddy?
That's right. I'm fairly well. I'm ready to sell people some spaceships. That's why I'm in my Hawaiian shirt. My Stations of Stanton Hawaiian shirt, by the way. So, you
know. The weather has definitely hit with a vengeance down here today. It's definitely getting a lot more sweaty. Let's just put it that way.
It certainly is the first real couple of summer days we've had. Like the last 2 days have been high 30s for me. So that's close to 100 for Americans.
Cracking out the barbecue down here, that's for sure. So we kind of took the last 2 weeks off. We had 2 pre-recorded episodes that we've used up, so it gave us a bit of time to recover. So we're feeling a bit better now. And so what Alga and I were talking about what to do today for the show. And what we've decided to do is we've often had this kind of mantra about selling ships that are under $200 because they don't really maximize your buck. Yeah, don't have that bang for buck or maximization of value. And so we thought we'd go the opposite of that and kind of show you what big ones that you probably shouldn't buy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through all the ships. I've got them all listed here. Or Algared helped me put this list together as well. And we're just going to go through each individual one and just tell you our thoughts on it and whether we think they're worth a purchase or not. Pretty simple. We do this type of thing every year with a slightly different spin.
And this is, the prices there are the prices from what they are currently in the store. So it's not looking at what you can get with CCUs or war bond CCUs. It's just the current in-store value of those ships. So, and some of them, I suppose, as I was going back looking at them, I was surprised. I was, oh man, that's oof. Yeah, it was hurting to look at some of those. So,
so generally speaking, these are the ships that we, with a simple rule, we tend to recommend, but we're going to go through and kind of like tell you some of the ones that we don't recommend and stuff like that. We are also working on another tier list episode that we did last year, but I'm polling all the Inforunners for that. So even if they're not on the episode, we'll have information from all the guys if we can get it. All right. Well, with that said, then we'll kick it off. The red circle is back. I've been back for a while.
The dreaded circle.
But yeah, 400 Algared, I'll let you kick it off. And we have to kind of be a bit quick on this because otherwise it's going to be really long.
Because we've got so many ships to do through. Look, I actually like the 400i. It's got a nice interior. It's a great solo person ship. It probably doesn't match up against some of the other ships, but it's not a bad buy.
Definitely showing the pipeline is getting better. It's easily got the best interior of any Origin ship in my book. I just can't recommend it based again on value. So yeah, I will say about this one though, Algared, the best version of the 600i, and I am kind of very intrigued by the rework. I actually think it might put Origin for me back in the limelight.
Oh, look, I think this is going to be the best by far of the 600i. I think you're going to see personally, I think that the cabins of the guest cabins in a touring will be the crew quarters in the front half of the ship, and all the scientific details or all the touring details will be in the back half of the ship. But I reckon the rework says that is going to be an awesome ship. Yep.
So for me, again, Origin just doesn't have bang for buck. So yeah.
For me,
I think that's the other. I was just saying we do need to say that on every ship. Do we recommend it or not? Because we haven't been doing that. Yeah. So yeah.
For the touring, why get the touring if you can go the Explorer?
That's just it. 890 jump. I think this will probably be the most interesting of the Origin ships when it's all said and done. I have problems with it again, just based on the values. But your thoughts, Algared?
I actually really like the 890 jump. Yes, it is big, it is cumbersome, but if I compare it to, say, the new Odyssey, I think it leaves the Odyssey dead in its tracks. And I still think compared to some of the other ships, it is great value for what it is. And we've said in the past, it's not necessarily the best value, and yet compared to some others, it's a good ship. It can be a carrier. It can do exploration because of the sensors it's got. It can do. It does have individual crew quarters. It does have executive suites. It does have things for role play as well as other activities. So yeah, it's a good ship, but it's pricey.
My camera's having focusing issues because I'm sitting back further than usual. So I'll have to fix that later. Anyway, A2 Starlifter. Again, I think most of the people realize that the A2 is really overpriced for what it is, and I don't think it really is a $750 ship. I know where they're charging the value of ships on their components, but I can't see how you can get a ship like that and it goes up so much in price just based on its internals. And the really only difference is that launcher. And again, you look at, say, like a Retaliator bomber to a Retaliator base. That's similar type of level of mechanisms. It might be a little bit bigger, but I just can't see it really growing out by that much.
Yeah, I agree. The Hercules A2 loses a lot of the versatility that the other Hercules have just to get that bomber, and it's not worth it in my opinion.
I'm going to smack these two together. So the Apollo for me, I definitely a step above the Cutlass Red. If you are into medical, I can totally justify it.
Yeah, and if you are into medical, definitely, because it's a 2-person ship, so you can do it with yourself or with a friend.
The Inferno and Ion. We kind of talked about this time last year when we talked about the Inferno and we kind of said when it came out, it really was what we thought it was going to be. Like, we thought the Iron was going to be better than the Inferno, and we kind of just didn't think they were going to be worth it. And that's kind of rendering a bit true now because people are saying they want to tweak them so they're better. But the thing is, there's nothing for them to do in the game at the moment. There's no, unless you only doing the Idris mission over and over and over, there's not really a lot for you to do. So
yeah. And when you look at the price of those ships against a triage, I'd go with triage any day, or any of the Apollos any day. But the Ares, for me, it's not a buy. It's not an in-game. It's an in-game purchase.
The one I always compare it to, Algared, is the $5 price difference at concept between it and the Mercury Star Runner, and the Mercury Star Runner is just 3 times the size, so it kind of tells you everything. Blade for me is an instant pass. This is basically an alien Gladius that's just super overpriced.
It's lighter than a Gladius, I think, but it's woeful.
C2 Hercules. Now, again, we'll come back to the tier list, and I'm very interested to see what happens with the tier list this time around, because I fought tooth and nail to say that this thing was not a top tier ship. And I think now, a year later, a few of the things I said have come to pass. Like, I remember they used to fight me tooth and nail on, it's the only ship that does tanks. Well, now we've got the Liberator and blah, 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 and a few other things. And things that have come out, like how the Caterpillar has more cargo than the C2, but less than, more than the M2, but less than the C2. What happened with the Battery Merchantman, a whole bunch of stuff like that. I think you'd kind of agree it's not top tier anymore. Would you agree with that, in short?
I think that its niche is a vehicle transport. That's where it excels. And I think of the vehicle transport ships we've got, it is still the cheapest of the options that really, for the larger ships. So if that's what you want to do, then that's the ship, that's your jam. You've got to go for it.
You're getting a phone call, sir. Anyway,
I am.
All right.
I ignore it and it'll go away.
That's right. So the Carrack, I think, for me, if you're into exploring, no brainer. I'll just make this one short and sweet.
Yep. Ditto.
Yep. Caterpillar, as I said, compared to the Hercules, without even bringing modularity into it, I still think that really holds its own. Yes, obviously there's a few other things, but if you bring in those versatility, the value of the ship is still yet to be seen. And I think it already holds its own where it is.
I think you're right. It's like I said, the only thing the Hercules Starlist really has is that vehicle transport. The Caterpillar is supposed to have some form of that, but its lifts have never worked. Whether they will actually get them in working, we don't know. But certainly as a cargo ship, Caterpillar is up there.
All right, I'm going to have to speed it up a bit because we're almost at 10 minutes recorded.
That's okay.
Constellation Andromeda is my favorite. I'll do the Aquila. Again, I think there's better exploration. And for the Phoenix, I would say there is better luxury. Your take on those three in the same order. So,
yes, Aquila is certainly a good explorer ship. It's the only other ship with the jump point mapping and navigation sensors. And it gave up 2 missile pylons to get those. So they bloody well better do something useful. Take note, John Crew.
Anything else? You don't want to add it? You agree with everything else I said?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right, you go Corsair then. Tell us about the Corsair.
Corsair,
About to come out. Just went into the product pipeline too. So
yeah, it's an explorer ship, or should be.
Hmm.
It should compete with the Aquila and the 400i. It's just pick your jam.
I think for me it's the turrets. It all comes down to how those turrets turn out. I've
Yep.
got CCU. I'm sitting on it. I'm waiting. You know, and that's what everyone else should be doing. If you're interested in something, and that applies to any of the ships we talk about across all this. Crucible, no brainer.
Oh,
I'll just leave it at that. No brainer.
Cult of a Crucible. If you don't know our take on the Crucible, then
what the hell are you doing on this channel? Like,
go watch our other videos.
Defender. I think it's again, it's one of those ships that have from the fighter bracket, and why we really kind of say don't buy ships under $200, and because of the alien tax, it's crept over, and again, it's not worth it at that price point.
Especially considering I think it's a light fighter, isn't it? Or considered
Yes.
light medium
Yes.
fighter. The
Yes,
only
it
advantage
is.
it does have is it does have internals, so you can do box missions opposed to other fighters. But
essentially, Algared, it's double the price of a human light fighter.
Yeah.
So
and you do get a bit more versatility but at 220.
So the Eclipse, this is one of the worst positioned price-wise ships in the game. I will say, though, I am firmly starting to believe now that a lot of the more overpriced ships will be harder to find from a rep perspective. So what you're essentially doing with a lot of these ships is removing a grind, but I just don't think that ship from Aegis will be that rare. I think you'll be able to get it. You'll just have to grind to get it. I just with the Retaliator. How do you justify it against the Retaliator?
And it's grind your rep rather than grind your cash. I agree. Look, it's a stealth ship. That's probably its niche. It's a torpedo bomber. It really doesn't do it for me. So,
Endeavour. Me and Ag will just say yes and move on because we've talked about that to death, and everyone knows how we feel on that. Genesis Starliner. I think, again, much like some of the other ships, its true value is yet to be seen. And I think you would agree with me, this is going to be reconcepted when they come back around to do the pass.
Look, I think it will be reconcepted. It's my last best hope for something good from Crusader. I haven't been impressed by Crusader ships so far. So yeah, it's my B5 ship. My last.
So
best
much
hope.
promise as a manufacturer, and they all kind of just slightly let me down. And it's little weird things like lack of windows, or just little weird things, little things that were like I remember with the MSR, they were like, oh, there's no second exit. Like, it was a complete overthought. Like, all these people had worked on it, and they're like, oh, a second exit. Like, they were just like, I remember the video, and the guy's like, oh, didn't think of that. Like, for me, it comes down to a law perspective in terms of the organization and the company. And the company's got this great rep for being humanitarian and focused on social justice and everything else. And they rewrote it. They rewrote it to sell.
Actually support that. None of them.
They rewrote it to sell more ships, essentially.
Yeah.
It's the marketing part. So for me, it's evidence that the marketing department was actually influencing the design of ships, and I do not like that at all. So yeah,
I think part of it was also that desire to have ships from different manufacturers. Oh, we've got too many Aegis. Where can we put a ship on? We'll put it there, and I don't think it necessarily works.
Dollars talk every time. I'm going to move on.
You look at. I know you want to speed up, but you look at the manufacturer, and their law is they start off with a shuttle company. Where's their shuttles? Where's their people movers? Where's their... So hence the Starliner being my last best hope.
The Glaive Algared, I think that falls pretty much under the same space as the Blade, yes, for you?
Yep, it's basically a medium or heavy fighter.
The Hammerhead. Now, when we go back and look at a lot of ships that we go back and look at from time to time, this is that time of year that me and Algared sit down and we go back over stuff. And this is one that I will be going back over with you later, Algared, but I think this is firmly in the armor camp. This ship will not recognize its full potential until the armor comes in. Yeah.
And it's a great ship if you've got crew. If you've got people on the turrets, and that's one of the things that does really set some of these ships apart. The turrets on the ships is so much better and is a lot of fun. as you and I can both testify. But if you don't have turret gunners, then you're kind of left in a lurch.
All right, so I'm going to chuck all three hulls together. I do think, like, once we've sat down and talked about the gameplay in a group, each hull series has a different kind of role. So the bigger ones are basically only going to be stopping in the biggest space station in that system, dropping stuff off. And so they are those long-range hauler where they're just literally going from one side of the universe and back again and again. So all they really are going to be doing is traveling.
Yeah. I kind of see them as like the coal trains or the road trains that we have in Australia. You know, they're just...
So the C's probably a bit more generalized than those, where it will probably go off to a particular planet or and stuff like that. So it's like the next step down, and as you go down into smaller and smaller cargoes, that's how that'll work. But yeah, for me, they all have a place, especially some of the large ones. You can't get whole E's in that.
Well, for people who are after, for people who are wanting to do the hauling, the hull C is supposed to be the most common freighter that we have in game. So that's the most common freighter in the UEE. So if you're wanting to if you're someone who's looking at getting into freight, you don't need to be a D or an E. The hull C will be adequate and actually get you that gameplay.
Idris K and P. So I'm gonna have to remind myself here. One's got a laser, and what's the other one? You're
the K has a laser, a size 10 laser. The P has no laser, but it does have an extra mount. The K also replaced some of the man turrets with automatic turrets. We deliberately left the M off, by the way, because you can't buy it anymore.
Yeah.
So
and mainly speaking, the reason why I don't look at the stuff like that, because it's really just the outsides that changed. In fundamentally the same core part of the ship, the role of this ship is still the same. It's just they change on the outside a little bit. Again, you would know if you want this ship, it is more combat related than say something like a Kraken. I still think the Kraken is the better choice for most people, because it also has more downtime activities because it's got more ships that can land on it and things like that. So yeah.
But I think the Idris, the Javelin, and the Kraken, they all fall into that category of being org ships. They're not ships for just a solo person or one or two mates. They really are a small org or a...
Well, we can really kind of chuck those all in together because it really is like the Javelin is the same. But yeah, for me, again, if you get up here to the Kraken and the Kraken Privateer, for me, again, it's the Kraken is the better choice. Because you can turn your Kraken into a privateer, and it just, as I said, it's got more downtime. It's more versatile. That covers it. So yeah. Anything you want to add about the Kraken, Aaron?
Only that the privateer, if you're a small org and you do want that base where you can resupply and do other stuff, that might be a better option because you've got your stores and other stuff, so you can actually sell stuff to people.
Yeah, you just got to be able to justify the extra expenditure.
But yeah.
Liberator, again, for me, that kind of, the M2, C2 is a $30 difference between the M2 and the Liberator at the moment. And I think the Liberator is the better choice because it just does almost as much cargo. Plus it does more vehicles and it does ships as well, which is just, it's insane. Yes, it's a physically bigger ship, but it takes 2 crew to run. It's crazy. So, and I don't think you're going to have any difference in, you've probably got more guns on the M2 and more armor, but you're still going to need to be escorted by fighters if you want to be escorted, and the Liberator is going to need that as well. So maybe the Liberator is easier to shoot. That's probably my only negative I can give there.
Look, I think when you look at the C2 and the M2 against the Liberator, they both have more guns. They are both cheaper ships. I think M2... I'm going to say it's a cheaper ship. Yes, it is. But they use more crew, and they are really your vehicle transports. The Liberator gives more versatility, but it's a more expensive ship. So,
in the M2's favor, the only thing I can give is the armor. So it's still got its place, but I don't think it's I think it makes it more of an earning game for me now because I would take the Liberator because there's more positives. But yeah. The Mole, Algared, your thoughts on the Mole?
I'll go back to Liberator, M2, C2. Price could be your determining factor.
Yeah.
If you've got $400 and you really want a vehicle transport, you're going for C2. If you've got the money to burn, M2, Liberator.
The Mole.
But I think the Liberator's a better ship. Mole, great ship for mining. You can do it by yourself. It is a bit of a hassle, but it is great fun with a couple of mates.
Definitely good from the fact of in the game right now. It's very good right now. Down the line, I think out of all the miners that we're expecting, I think it might be the worst, believe it or not, but I'll wait and see on that.
Although, like the other Argo ship that we've recently had, it does have a great living quarters for crew. So they are getting better at kind of giving those amenities and support aspects for crew. And
so the Merchantman now in my book rivals the 890 jump. And I'm really looking forward to see how it comes out in game. I think it will be on par. Like, well, I don't know. You tell me, Algared, from your perspective, what you saw at CitizenCon. Excuse me.
I think that the Merchantman will end up being around the 890's price tag. 890 has luxury tax, Merchantman has alien tax. They do very similar things. One does luxury, one does trade, but they've generally got the same type of things there. Merchantman's slightly more got bigger guns, but yeah, they're very similar ships in terms of size and what they do, but they branch off a little. But yeah, very similar.
Mercury Star-R, for me, I still own it, but I will freely admit I always have something on the chopping block, and I have got my 3 smaller ships on the chopping block. I think this is the first cab off the rank. Like you said before about Crusader, basically. I'm just mirroring what you said about Crusader before. It's just something off about it. It does have little roles, but none of the roles are really so like data running. I don't think that's a primary role. It feels like a secondary role. It does cargo, which feels like a secondary role because there's much better cargo ships. It's a little bit of versatility, but not as like a heap of versatility, like say something like a Caterpillar. And it's not far enough one way and not far enough the other for me.
But I think its ace in the hole is you can actually run that ship fairly comfortably by yourself. And that's one thing that goes with the 600i as well and the 400. You know, some of those ships really do work well for a single person.
The Nautilus, we talk about this one quite a bit. Comes up in a lot of fleets, especially people that want defense. I own one. I know Algared owns one. So yeah, defense. It's a big defense area of defense denial ship. And you'd agree with that, yeah?
Yeah, and the big point, like it looks small in terms of facilities, but what it's got is those mines, and the mines are going to make or break that ship.
All right, Algared, 30 seconds, go.
Oh, the Odyssey. Look, the Odyssey had so much potential, but marketing it's just been badly sold. You've got a mining laser. That's basically its ace in the hole. Everything else is fluff. Cabins for crew. 890's got more cabins for crew. It's got a viewing cabin. The 890's viewing cabin is much better than that little piddly room. It's got Xeon gravity generator and Xeon lifts. Whoopie-doo. It's got a hangar that's the size of a Polaris. It's basically the size of a Polaris. It's a Polaris without guns. It's at 700 for what it's got and what they've said it's got. It's absolute rubbish. So
I think for me,
and it might be a bit harsh, but
no, it's not. It's totally fine. For me, they've basically tried to give it different things from the other ships around that area, but because they've just grabbed the best of it, it's a jack of all trades, master of none. I think you will make a lot of money doing the surveying stuff, but I just think it's very repetitive gameplay that is going to get boring pretty damn quickly. And again, a survey ship, in my opinion, does not need a hangar. So this could have been a much smaller ship with a much smaller price tag. And just giving it a hangar for the sake of giving it a hangar, where it really is going in space, it didn't really need one. You're taking it.
Hang of it.
Just hang on. You're taking it there to support a small ship that wouldn't be able to get there without you, right? I get that part, right? But the thing is, you'd be much better. You almost need a Liberator to fly with it. Let's just put it that way.
Yep. I thought with the Odyssey, certainly with the hangar, one of the things they said that I recall from a Q&A when they were talking about the special systems and special support roles and equipment it had, was basically, well, it's got the hangar. You can, if you need extra scanners, you've got the, you can put a a Terrapin or a Ghost or another ship that has those things in it. And to me, that says, like you said, it's really just there to take those other ships to places they can't go.
We could literally talk about this ship for an hour. I've listened to Algared while we've been preparing this episode. Talk about it non-stop. So I'm going to move on. But yeah,
non-stop, but yes.
no, he's got a lot of. We both do. There's a lot, as the community does at large. There's a lot of problems with that ship. The Orion. I think this is, if you're into mining, back like what we're talking about the mole, and you want to just crunch a lot of stable mining, the Orion. It's a no-brainer for me.
And the fact that at the moment, if you've got that ship, you've actually got the mole and you've got the Prospector as loaners. So it's a great ship to have now. It's also a great ship to have CCUs too, if you go that line. I actually reckon it's a great ship for mining.
Perseus, for me, $350, $400 ship that's just overpriced.
If you can get it for $300, awesome. But yes, it's a river patrol boat. It's a local patrol boat. It's not a deep space patrol boat, in my opinion.
Pioneer, no CCUs, so it's actually now a very expensive ship to buy because there's no way to get it at a discount. And that is a thing now. When you can turn around and you can get a $95 Carrack, why would you want to spend a full $850 on a Pioneer? And you don't get LTI with it either because you have to buy. And
even the original concept was $800. And that had the land claim in it as well. So really a $700 ship. But yeah, it's...
Now, I'm a big fan of the Polaris, and again, if you are liking things like the hangar on the Odyssey, they pretty much confirmed that the Polaris has got all that, plus it's got guns. So the Polaris...
And torpedoes.
The Polaris is... If you're a fan of the Odyssey at all, you should be getting a Polaris instead. And if you have an Odyssey and don't have a Polaris, and you're unhappy with your Polaris, there you go, upgrade it from the Odyssey to the Polaris. There's your fix.
Look, I 100% agree. The Polaris has all the amenities that you'd want in a ship. Barracks, crew entertainment, etc. It probably doesn't have individual crew quarters. Probably does have a communal crew quarters, but it's got so much more going for it. It craps all over an Odyssey, I think.
All right. So no, and if you want a longer answer,
no.
There we go. Raelian.
Alien transport ship. At its price, it's not too bad. We say it's got it's often said it's got external cargo, but it doesn't really, because those cargo triangles are actually kind of armor that the cargo goes in. So it's not actually internal, but you can't actually... It's like the cargo on a 100i, underneath, or on a... Yeah, it's locked away, but you can't access it.
So it's a replacement for the Banner Manchman, because it takes up the Banner Mansion's old role of the blockade runner. But I'm going to go back to what Algared said before about the Defender. $5 difference from the Defender to the Raelian. No brainer. You want an alien ship? Get the Raelian. Don't bother with the Defender. My baby, the Reclaimer. I think it's a no-brainer at that price. It's still damn cheap for an industry ship that's that damn big.
And it's also currently the top of its line for salvage, so yeah.
Yep, and a good money earner. Redeemer, a lot harder of a pill to swallow with its $75 price increase. But damn, does it kind of leave a dark mark on the Hammerhead. I have to show you the gun later that I found for this. It is amazing. Just put it this way. By the time the Hammerhead starts firing its guns at you, the shots don't hit you before the Hammerhead explodes. It kills it that quickly. So yeah.
I did see some posts regarding PTU where the Redeemer does have some changes to its firing rates and things with its turret. So I haven't checked it out, but that might sour the view. But that is a great ship. Couple of mates in that ship, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we've done that ourselves, haven't we?
Yeah.
Retaliator, as we said before, hard to justify the Eclipse when this thing exists. You basically get benefits of the Eclipse, but you also get, smuggling, you get a drop ship, you get a long range, you can change out, put the kitchen in. It does require 5 crews to man all the little individual guns, but yeah, it's $150. It's the cheapest daily driver style of ship that I think you can get.
Well, version is the 275, but yeah.
I meant the base at 150. Yeah.
But I was really surprised doing Xenothreat how much fun and how good this was with a couple of crew and gunners. If you had the top dorsal turret and ventral turret gunners, not even just ignoring the smaller guns, just those two bigger guns, it was a lot of fun. If you had a full crew gunning that ship, it was almost like flying a mini hammerhead in a sense.
So that base Algared is one of those few ships, isn't it, that breaks our $200 rule?
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. Retaliator base certainly does break that rule.
Santokyai for me is a mid-range alien ship. It is expensive for what it is, but I still think if you take the scout and add the guns, this thing could be an absolute beast in the right hands. And generally speaking, when you've got a light, medium, and heavy, it's always the medium that's the most versatile. So this could make it one of the most versatile alien ships in the game, but we'll have to wait and see.
You also compare that to the price of a Defender, and if you're looking for a fighter,
Defender
light fighter with that, 220, Santokyai medium fighter, 220.
Now, they class the Scorpius as a heavy. I don't think I can, knowing the Hurricane exists, and I think this is going to be worse than the Hurricane. But, they can prove us all wrong, but I think a lot of what the Scorpius was sold on how it looked like an X-Wing, personally.
I think the Scorpius play comes down to that turret, how that turret's going to work. The turret gameplay with a Hurricane is a lot of fun. If you enjoy the turret and, being a turret gunner and a pilot or a pair with a Hurricane, there is no reason you won't enjoy that. But again, at the moment, 220 or a Hurricane under 200.
Now, Algared, if you could get a hold of a scythe for $300, I'd recommend you could buy 10 and flip them. Because but if you can get a scythe for $300, you do you, man, because that's a bargain. With the price these things are selling, I think the last time I saw them was like $2,500 for one.
If I see a scythe for $300, I won't tell you, but I will have it.
Oh, and then sell it to you, yeah.
And then I'll sell it, yeah.
So purely based on value, you can't really get the scythe. So we probably should remove that from this list. But anyway, Starfarer and Starfarer Gemini. Again, we talk about the value of ships coming in. These, in my book, are both about to be seen when refueling and that comes in. So maybe a month from now we can tell you more about these two. But
it's
for me, they're worth a buy.
I think when refueling comes in, they'll probably go up in price as well.
Maybe, yep. I think they're definitely worth a buy, though, don't you?
Oh, look, I currently love a Starfarer for its cargo capacity. It's actually got 12 jump seats in the hangar itself. So that's 12 passengers you could be carrying. It's got plenty of vehicle space. It does have if you get the Gemini, it does have a size 5 turret. So it's not, it's not a bad buy. But it's big.
I used to be a big fan of the Terrapin, but I can't recommend it for its size anymore. It's just too expensive for what it is. When there's things like the MSR, there's only like, what is it, $20-$30 more. You've got other ships that are around that area, and the Terrapin is just really expensive for there's not a lot in there. Like, you basically got a bed, living quarters, and you've got a scanning seat. And what does that? And there's ships that are $50, $60 cheaper that have all that, but they just don't have the scanner. And it's not worth $60 for one scanner, so I don't get it.
Even though the Aquila is more expensive, by what, $90 or $80 or so.
You can validate it more though because it holds more people,
and it's got more cargo.
Yep.
So it's got 96 units of cargo plus. So you could either take a vehicle or that. It's got It's got a utility mount that can take 2 size 2 scanners, exactly the same number of scanners that the Terrapin can have. Terrapin might be a great ship, but it's a buying game. Certainly.
Yeah, what you're paying for is a small ship that's got one scanner top, one scanner bottom. You're paying for that versatility in a smaller ship, but it's just overpriced for what it is. This should have been $150 like a Prospector. It does, considering a Prospector has one scanner and it mines. You see where we're going with this? You take the miner away and add one scanner back, so why isn't it $150?
And it's got it's light on weapons as well.
Valkyrie for me is a dropship. It's the jack of all trades again, master of none, but I see its place there. I really do. And when we've talked to the military guys, there's not a single drop ship that they haven't looked at and said this has a place.
Mm.
So you know, and it was really good for a long time in game. And I think you correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but the C2 came along and it kind of really stole a lot of its thunder. Just for
Because
the in-game,
C2,
just for
only
the
because
in-game.
the C2 could bring the tanks along.
Yeah.
So if it was only, you know, you look at the ships that could take the tank to locations at the moment. It was the 890 and the C2. I don't think there's any other ship that could take a tank currently in game. So yeah.
So I'm going to chuck all the Vanguards together. The only one I think that's kind of really worth it anymore is the Sentinel because of the e-warfare stuff. And I think
and that's still to find exactly what it can do, isn't it? It's still nebulous.
But it's the only kind of really unique one left. We've got other dropships. We've got other long range type of things. We've even got ships that allow you to take other ships to essentially turn, like the Liberator turns other ships into long range fighters now. And not only that, it's also a repair platform that can kind of resupply and little extras like that this won't have. Yes, it still has its place, but for me, the nose guns, just like you, kind of kill it. Yeah.
Yeah, I could understand where the nose guns were coming from because it was based on the old World War II aircraft. But yeah, the Sentinel certainly has a lot of gameplay that's yet to be really found.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that, and I can hear Sia behind us saying the same thing. But yeah, I think the Vulcan falls in the same kind of area as the Terrapin for me. I'll let you talk about that one because I kind of.
Look, the Vulcan as a repair refuel rearm ship with a crew of 2 to 3 is great for a couple of mates. It's also a very cheap ship. So if you're looking for that and you know you're not going to be playing with a larger crew, that might be the jam. But you've got to understand that it's really limited in its cargo capacity.
Yep.
So even though it can cargo, repair, refuel, and rearm, you're really only ever going to be able to do one of those fairly well. And if you want to do better, you'd go over Eclipse. Oh, not the Eclipse, the Crucible. But to fully man that and take full advantage of it, you'd need 8 crew on it, and that's a big difference.
It still has its place, and the military guys have shown me that. But again, earning down and maximization of value, you are far better to get a Crucible and take the Crucible and use that to earn one of these in game. You cannot take a Vulcan and very easily earn a Crucible. So always go. This is why people always ask us, why do we always recommend these bigger ships? And generally speaking, that's why we recommend them, because you can, let's just use this as an example. You can get two Vulcans there, and it's $400, or you can get 1 Crucible. And I guarantee you 1 Crucible will outclass both of these Vulcans.
Well, the simple fact the Crucible can take a Hornet in its Scarab hangar bay, or open the Scarab up and take a bigger ship.
And we can go on and on and on about this, but I just want to keep that really precise and simple. These smaller ships do not scale, right? And you can look at all of them across the profession. So Vulture to Reclaimer, Terrapin to Carrack, and all that type of stuff. And when you maximize them out, you're better off to buy the bigger one and just very quickly, and Algared's gone into things about like where he's done missions in Auroras and Retaliators, and the difference of prices and stuff like that is insane, to the point that you'll pretty much be able to do one mission in any of the bigger ones and pretty much buy the smaller one. It's that quick.
And look, I'll temper that, because I know we often get hassle. People will claim, look, you're only ever saying get those capital ships, get those big capital ships. What if you can't do that? I think you get the biggest ship that you can manage and run with, and earn down all those other ships you want. But if you know you want that 890 jump, you know you want that bigger ship down the track, get that bigger ship and then use it to earn your way down, because it is hell hard to earn up. Now, there are things you can do to help you, to help yourself do that. You can do things like those envelopes or the Christmas gifts. Unfortunately, they have recently reduced the price that they used to be $1,000 per gift. They're now only $250, but that's still a lot of credits you can pick up. I was earning 200,000 in like an hour at Hurston, just going through those gifts. So if you've got an Aurora, you could very quickly just do things like that, and you can earn those bigger ships. But if you've already got them, it's going to be easier to earn down than it is to earn up.
Yeah. So I'm going to be starting streaming really soon as well, as we wrap up this episode. And after this episode comes out tomorrow, I will be actually streaming. So I'm going to do an episode tomorrow. Well, actually it'll be today for you guys because you're watching that right now. But yeah, if you're watching this video and it's just came out, I'll probably be streaming. So I'm going to have a go at that and see if you guys like watching me. We'll see how it goes. So please come along and support me. I'd love to see you guys out there. And I just want to make a go of it and see how it goes. But yeah, other than that, if you like this type of content, definitely leave us your thoughts below in the comments. Let us know what ships you agree with, which ones you disagree with. We do read every comment. We may not reply to every single one, but we definitely read them, and not just us too. The other Inforunners go through them as well. So if you do have a comment that you want to drop to someone, please do that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Algared?
If you do want, I suppose there's always to fix my fleet. If you've got questions on the ships in your fleet and you want help, you want us to go over them, either us or people from our channel who have drunk out cordial,
yep,
or drunk out Kool-Aid, drop into our channel, go to the Fix My Fleet or FMF channel, and put your stuff in there, and people will gladly kind of help you sort that out.
I think that's a key thing, Algared. This is not just us that talk about this stuff. It's always a big group consensus that everyone comes towards. So it's not you're not just getting advice from me and Algared here. You're getting the advice of many other people who have run this through their heads as well. So it's a big, nice group consensus collaboration.
Yep. And the last thing is, you do really like our content and you'd like to support us, consider becoming a Patreon. It does help us. It does help us improve our equipment and improve our content. Yeah.
I'll leave the times I'll be streaming tomorrow in the description too, because that'll allow me to work it out after the video, so I don't have to sit and do it in my head now. All right, with that, he's been Algared, I've been Execute, and I'll see you shortly if you come and watch me. If not, we'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye.
Take care.